Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our July 6th council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Can we have a motion to excuse Mr. Ball?
I'll make a motion, we excuse Mr. Ball.
Second.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 15th. Any additions or corrections? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve minutes of regular meeting of June 15th, 2015.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Next, approval manifest 2015-12 in the amount of $541,603.08. Chris.
No questions.
Lee.
Two questions and one comment here. Page 1, I see we paid Danielson's to cut grass for, I'm sure, people that didn't want to cut it themselves. And that $100, that'll be put on their taxes?
Yes.
Okay, now where do they come up with the $100? I mean, is that for 4 hours work, 5 hours work? What do they charge by the hour? I mean, do they charge $12 an hour to do this, or 15 or 20 or?
I'd have to look at their bill.
Well, why don't you find out, because seeing as we got all this summer hell cutting grass, maybe we can get them to do it.
Lee,
Charge
can
them.
I make a comment?
Sure can.
Council made a directive not to use summer help. So until you change policy, council changed policy because of liability to go on somebody's property. So so the staff is going by council directive not to use city.
Okay, when was this directive put in, you remember?
Well, it's
I don't remember.
3 or 4 years ago.
It was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers my question.
Because we were doing that at first, and then the liabilities from our insurance company said that it is not, it's not the right thing to do to use our people based on liability. They would prefer us to use a contractor that has insurance.
Okay, then that brings up something that I was going to mention later on. If you're talking about liability of doing work going on other people's property, how about the job up here on the highway where we used our light department to go on to private property to put up sign poles?
Right, and
what's the difference?
And that also was a council policy from way back that we helped people or private enterprises, individuals, when they, to do some work. So the difference between, say, from 2000, prior to 2000 to today, what we do is that we actually charge. Before, you were doing it for nothing. So at least we're getting paid for it.
Well, I sure hope we charge for it, and I would like to see what we charged them for it, because I know that we would have been low bidder on it, because he wouldn't have had us do it if we
Right.
weren't the low bidder.
Again,
And did we sell him those 5 poles?
Again, yes, we did. And
Okay.
again, Lee, if the council does not want us to do that, then
Well, that's-
make that policy, because we
that's-
are only going by the policies of the
Well,
council.
that's a new one on me.
Yeah.
And also, on these 5 poles then, if they got charged for them, did they get charged for replacement value on them? Maybe the poles cost $100 to start with, but now that you've used them up and you go to replace
Joe-
them, maybe they'll be $150.
Joe put that together.
Yes, they were charged that replacement cost.
And what is the replacement cost? Can you throw that out real quick?
I believe it were $450 apiece.
A piece? They're that
piece.
expensive?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't like the idea where we're doing that. And the other comment that actually I have here, well, no, it's not even a comment. Same page, halfway down, under police department, replace master cylinder and booster brakes for $589. I know we have a good mechanic. Is that something he just wasn't equipped to handle?
No, normally Rick would be doing that work, but he hurt his back and he was off of work for about a week and a half.
Oh, and that's
So
some-
during that time
during that
frame,
time? Oh,
we were
okay.
farming out the work to be done.
Okay, that answers that question. And then a comment, total, we paid $159,000 for liability and property insurance. I'd just like the people to know where some of their money is going. $159,000 for that. I'm not complaining on the price, I'm just saying that's a good chunk of money. Okay, that's all I have.
Dr. Hayes?
No questions.
I have no questions either. So with that, I'm looking for a motion.
I guess I did have one question.
Okay.
What did Otto do for $2,600?
Under the Parks and Rec,
Yeah, Recreation Department.
I didn't hear the question.
Otto's bill for $2,600. I'd have to go pull that.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve manifest 2015-12 in the amount of $541,603.08.
Support?
Motion made by Chris, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes, manifest, or agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. There'll be a time for comment on any subject at the end of the meeting. Okay, first thing we have this evening is a public hearing on a request for vacating public right-of-way in Plat E of the John E. Anderson's 5th edition on US 2. Need a motion to go into public hearing.
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
Support?
Motion made by Chris, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the previous council meeting, we had a request come in, brought before council for going to public hearing to vacate section of alley by Beck's Ornamental and Turf. John Beck is here tonight. He's the petitioner for the request to vacate, and the purpose is that he owns on both sides of the road, and his request is to vacate it. He has some development plans on the opposite side of the road, and similar to the type of request that we heard, what was it, about a year or so ago from Danielson's, you know, where they had the alley in the back, and we discussed the vacating because of the business on both sides and having that traffic. In this case, there's actually some additional concern with the entrance onto the highway from that alley, the site distances. We've had conversations in the past from the access management group that it was a dangerous intersection or dangerous entryway, in that, especially now with Family Dollar coming in, there is some concern about that alley. John, I don't know if you want to come up and if you have anything to add.
Well, I use that alley a lot, and I try not to exit out of the alley that way. I try to go out on Ninth Avenue. And even coming in, when you stop there, a lot of people are getting ready to gun it for that corner and head uphill. And if you pull out of that alley, and it's during the daytime at the right time, there's people exiting from Subway. So you go to pull out, and all of a sudden they're there. And now if we're gonna have people stopping or slowing down to go in Family Dollar, and other people slowing and going into the phase. It's a nightmare. And when they redid the highway last year, they assured me that they didn't do anything different, but the water pours in from US 2 into the alley. And we're probably getting a hell of a stream right now, and it's not just a few gallons, it's hundreds of gallons. And it pours in there and just runs right down into my area. So
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else in the public wish to comment on the alley vacating? If you do, please come up to the podium. Okay, council, any other comments?
I see no problem with it. I've used that alley a couple times myself, and like he said, it's downright dangerous coming out of that alley onto US 2. It's bad, so it'd be a good idea to abolish it and let them buy it.
Dr. Hayes?
Well, I would assume then that if we did vacate it, that the access would be eliminated from the highway, and they wouldn't be able to come out, no one would be able to go in, is that correct?
Well, that work, I know that the highway department's not gonna do that work. John, you would have to probably, do that work unless you physically put something in the way to not allow that in and out.
Yeah, this time I didn't have any, real thoughts about building the sidewalk, but I was gonna build it up and block it off. And put it all into grass there.
I think they would probably put the curb in if they have a road project come through. Then they've taken out curb cuts that way and put it in their job, but.
Well, if we do approve it, I think that ought to be, part of the approval is that exit and entrance is eliminated. And the other concern that I had last time was that there's still two parts to the alley, and it's hard to go down one alley and turn and go down the other. It's too sharp of an angle, so how would that manage?
You mean you come off on Ninth with that U there, you mean, you go back on Ninth?
No,
Yeah.
if you were, right.
Yeah, down in their corner there.
Yeah, there's a lot of room there to make that corner.
But not on the alley right away. So somehow it would have to be reconfigured because it comes up and meets, and the two alleys are very sharp point. So somehow you'd have to reconfigure the alley.
I think the way that it was plowed for years, or the way most people drive through there, there wouldn't be much of an issue. They just kind of round that corner anyway.
But it's not an official alley. That's why I thought maybe we were going through the paperwork that ought to be re-described or something to.
They're both official alleys. It's in the
No,
plat map.
he's talking about where to round that corner. That's not officially part of the alley.
You can't go down one and drive down the other and stay on the alley right away. You have to go on his property.
Yeah, you'd have to come in a little bit. That's a survey. I mean, for a property description, you'd have to actually survey that to get the right description. So we would have to, you'd have to kind of get a proper legal through a survey, I would imagine, wouldn't you, Grant?
Survey is always the most advantageous, definitive response to clarify any questions on what the description is or the access point.
So that's the two things that I'd like to see is that right away the alley, other part of the alley that is made official as part of the alley, so some future landowner can't say, well, I don't want you driving on my property and put up, park something there.
The most effective probably is to put kind of like a little cul-de-sac down in that area.
Well, we need a cul-de-sac as long as you can make that
But
corner.
that's what it would be. It would just be,
Right.
you design a little, what would look like a cul-de-sac, because we own the property just to the east of that. So you'd be able to go into that area a little bit and deal with it.
Comes like
Mm-hmm.
this right now. You have to somehow put that across.
You come down and you'd have to make the turn. You'd have to go, actually, you'd have to deal with the property owner here, if they're willing to deal with us to do that.
Well, who is that property owner?
For Faithorn Properties.
Well, that's what I'd like to see is that
Yeah.
this made this way and that this be abandoned, the whole thing.
Well, we'd have to buy that. That's private property right now. Can't abandon that, that's private. So we'd have to actually get them to deed it over to us, or. Unless you want an eminent domain.
Well, somehow I think that has to be addressed turning that corner. Otherwise abandon all the alleys.
Okay.
So if that can be addressed, I mean, and the.
I can't
this is
answer
neighbors.
that question tonight. You know, so I mean, if you wanted to put a hold on it until we can answer that question, but that one is something we can definitely work on, it makes sense, but I can't answer it tonight. Because I'd have to get with that property owner and see what they'd be willing to deal with.
It may be a good idea to put a hold on it just to see what we can, and if we can't, we can, like you said, we can try to figure something out down in here, but then again, we still have to figure it out,
Right.
so.
Right. No, I don't disagree with it, it's just that that's private property.
Chris?
I agree with it, I think it makes sense, so I don't have any problems.
Grant, did you see any issues?
Well, review the city charter appears that we followed all the requirements. And it's up to ultimately up to the city council on how to proceed. You know, looking at the city council's concerns and Doc Hayes' concerns specifically, making sure that alley and that it's accessible and that's still pertinent or helpful for vehicular traffic is well-founded. You know, and having the property on either side of the parcel that needs to be vacated. You know, it seems as though we do have a few issues we need to clean up before we have a final determination. You could take it piecemeal, but it's certainly a lot easier and cleaner perhaps just to do all at once with some cleaner legal descriptions for the sale part of it and also addressing any of these issues. I think if the council wishes to proceed to vacate specifically the alley, then it certainly can be done. But if the council wishes to pursue it in one package, I think that can also be done as well. It's up to the city council how it wishes to pursue.
I think I would agree with Dr. Hayes. Let's get it all figured out before we do part of it.
Oh, I would have no objections if he wants to close off the entrance to the alley now, that, I certainly wouldn't have any objection to that, if it is indeed dangerous. Because I think that ought to be part of the deal, is that, that the alley is closed off if we're gonna vacate. I don't want being used as a private driveway then.
Okay. Joe, Tricia, Ray, anything else?
No, just that we'll get a hold of that other property owner.
Okay. Yeah, and like I say, if we can't, then we still gotta work out how we're gonna handle the rounding in below if we can. Okay, any other comment? Is there any further comment? Is there any further comment? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close public hearing.
Second?
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Okay, next this evening, we have an appointment and presentation for the MML Workers' Compensation Fund Board of Trustees. There were recommendations put forward by the board, and the request is that the council endorse the 6 candidates that were recommended. Unless the council has a candidate they would prefer to be considered. If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that the 6 candidates proposed by the MNL's nominating committee be endorsed by the City of Norway Council.
Second?
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Resolution 2015-18. It's the vacate right-of-way of Plat of John E. Anderson, 5th edition of US 2. I believe the decision was to postpone this till the 20th, and we'll take a look at it there, and if we need to postpone longer, we could.
Does it matter if we postpone it? We have to deal with the alley either way, whether we, you know.
You could
What if there's any-
approve it contingent of having an acceptable turn radius at that point, whether that's through property purchase or acquisition from that neighbor, or working out with John to come down a little farther. Because, I mean, if we couldn't do something with the Faithorn properties to square that up, I mean, there's might be a little extra availability down in the corner. I mean, we could wait and I could go through that. Again, it's council's choice.
I mean, I think it's a good,
I don't think if we put it off, it's gonna hurt your plans at all, is it? Or-
Probably not.
I don't think anybody has any objections to vacating it, but I think we ought to do it at one time and make sure.
Yeah, get it all cleaned up. Is there a motion to postpone?
I'll make a motion, we postpone this until questions are answered or,
The 20th.
what, yeah,
Well, you gotta give a date, so next meeting's the 20th, so,
okay.
okay. Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes,
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Last thing on the agenda this evening is approval Department of Public Works mower purchase. Joe?
I'm requesting the council to review the information that I gave them regarding the purchase of two mowers. One of the mowers, this one with the 60-inch deck, we lost one of our John Deere mowers, blew an engine up, and the engine replacement is, in cost for repair, is $5,500. The rest of the mower is such poor condition that it's not worth sticking that much money into it. So one of these mowers is to replace a broken mower. And the other one, I'm requesting, because of the added grass mowing load that we've picked up with Marion Park, we can use another mower to keep up with all the grass mowing. Next year, we have had discussions about the golf course being done in a different manner than it's done today. And at that point, we would be responsible for the soccer fields and the practice football areas in that area also. So that would add about another 10 acres or 12 acres of grass to mow. We have a need for it, and I have money in a new equipment fund that will cover the cost in the budget. And so I'm asking you to consider it.
So what you're looking for is a 60-inch and a 72-inch?
60 and a 72. The 60 replaces the broken one, and the 72 is an added one.
How old was that John Deere?
That would have been a 1989.
Any idea how many hours on it?
No, I don't. I'm sure there's an hour meter on it. I just don't know that. I can find out if you really need to know that.
No, it's just.
I'll let you know.
Curious. Yeah, why don't
Yeah.
you do that? I'm
Okay.
curious.
All right.
can't do the work without the tool.
No, we're adding more acres of grass with the addition of us taking over Hanbury a little over a year ago, and now we're working on the Strawberry Lake area. It's pretty weedy at the moment, but we just sprayed down there, and we did plant grass in that area. The grass is coming up within the weeds pretty good. So I would anticipate there's another 5 acres there to mow for next year.
Will our mechanic be doing the maintenance work on them?
Yes, he will be. There is a warranty, it's a 3-year warranty on them. During that time period, they would be going back to whom we purchased them from. You have two choices here. I recommend buying them locally here at Halls. They are a little more, it isn't very much, just a couple $100 more, but I think it's worth doing the business here in
No,
town.
that's not an issue as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, all right.
That $400 you'd save going somewhere else
Yeah,
isn't worth
yeah,
going back
it's, in my opinion, a moot point. After that point, we would be doing the maintenance on them, but before that, then they would go to Halls for repair, any warranty work.
down. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the purchase of two zero-turn mowers from Hall's True Value for a price not to exceed $18,319.92.
I'll support. Motion made by Chris, supported by myself. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes,
That's our business this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone wish to address the council on any subject? If you do, please come up to the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Shirley Foisey. I live at 222 Brown Street. And I'm also here representing Pam Stetson. I'm a neighbor. I believe her address is 304 Brown. She's out of town this week. Last Thursday, I believe it was, she called and spoke to Mr. Anderson regarding the speeding on Brown Street. In the last couple of weeks, we have gone up and down, knocked on every door, and talked to the very majority of the residents who are all in favor of enforcement of the speed limit. It's getting out of hand. We have heard several comments from people. Good luck. You know, there used to be a guy down the street that had signs out. You know, people are very concerned over their children and grandchildren visiting. My block alone, there are 5 children, permanent residents, and 4 grandchildren that visit on a very regular basis. We are very concerned. It is nothing for these cars to be going 55 miles an hour, and the trucks also. It's really excessive, worrisome. In addition to the worry over our children, I don't know what you call it, the sewer hole is sunk down, and when these trucks hit it, our houses shake. People are telling us, yes, their houses are shaking, it's bothering them with the shaking. Pictures are falling, neighbor had pictures falling off the walls. Other people we spoke to said, yeah, I'm always straightening up pictures on the walls. I haven't hung anything yet, I'm afraid to, for that reason. But we would like to see something done. Now, periodically, there is a police officer that sits down by Danielson's, and we have noticed that when he sits there, fine and handy, the traffic comes through at 25. Although a week ago, Pam was outside doing yard work, and she said cars were speeding, and the police officer never even would have tried to pull anybody over. My thought is, maybe he should park on a side street and watch these people go by. I would invite any of you to come over to my house. I've been logging for the last week, you know, when these speeding occurrences are, and Saturday morning is absolutely horrendous. And I worry about our children. And there's no stop sign or anything for the school crossing, which, you know, that's a big issue too for these kids walking across the street to go to school. And anything that can be done to enforce that would be very helpful to the concern of the whole neighborhood. One lady Pam and I talked to, she has lived in that house her entire life, and she's, I don't know, I say in her mid-40s, early 40s, and she said the traffic and the speeding is worse now than it's ever been. And that's a general consensus from many people that we've talked to.
Thank you.
If you would like to, I have been logging this since June 26th. Not, 24 hours a day, but, the hours that I'm up and available. And it gives you an idea of, the way the cars are. They hit the top of the hill at 4th Street, and they speed up, or are coming into town. They don't slow down effectively. And, quite honestly, I don't know why the city hasn't tried to petition the state to lower the speed limit further back.
We have. We have many times, and every time we were told they will not do it because they do the speed studies and people are comfortable going faster than the 55. We even tried to do it when they had the bridge closure and they were directing all traffic through there. They wouldn't do it temporarily for that, and they wouldn't do it temporarily for the fair, at fair time. So we've tried many times to get that lowered, and the state will not do it. That we have tried. If you have an idea when you're seeing more speeding through, if you want to let us know, we can talk to the officers about trying to be over there at those times more often. So.
Yeah, if he parked on the side street, he would see these cars go flying by. When he parks next to the water building, they slow down. And you can tell 5 minutes later, if you're in the backyard, they're going fast again as soon as he leaves. But should I give this log to you?
Yes, I can take that, and we can have our police take a look at it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Well, my name is Joe Rake. I live at 718 Brown Street. And I've never been to a city council meeting before, so forgive me if I don't know procedure or whatever the case may be. But I am not familiar few that want to blow the hell out of
Per-
it.
Personally, I agree with you. The state law on this is they're allowed to set off till 1 AM.
Well, they were going pretty, okay.
I did hear some after 1 AM myself on Saturday night. Not a lot, but they're allowed to go the day before, day of, and day after a federal holiday, except for 1 AM to 8 AM.
Well, and I heard that too from the police, in talking to them. I know when this is per the Norway police, they said when they did approach people to start asking them to quiet down as they were hitting deadlines, they were getting other rude comments and rebuff. And I was just wondering if it's not a violation of Michigan law. I mean, certainly does the city of Norway have the right and the power to enact their own city ordinances, like any sort of control? Or giving the police at least the teeth to enforce the laws as they stand now, because they said they were.
The only controls we were given, when they initially passed it, those time limits weren't in there. So people could set off whenever. The state then enacted it allowing us to put in the 1 AM to 8 AM time limit. And that, we did that as soon as we were allowed to. But it specifically says local government cannot regulate them except for that 1 AM to 8 AM.
No choices.
No, we, as a city, we really don't have a choice on this, on that one.
And that's not even something that could be put on a local ballot.
No.
State of.
Unfortunately, yes.
There's, because I've been going back and forth with this all day, but there is one provision within the state law that allows municipalities over a certain size, 50,000 I think, or in a county of over 750,000 to actually go to midnight instead of 1. Unfortunately, we have neither.
That doesn't sound like they
No.
could be.
That's on TP, because there's some small communities that are taking advantage of the, like Oakland County, being in Oakland County, that they, and so the other thing is that, we can have all sorts of very strong sounding ordinance, but when it gets down to the enforcement, it's like the intoxication. It says very clearly, you cannot be intoxicated and light off the fireworks.
Well, that would stop the problem right there.
So you go and someone looks intoxicated, but you have to prove that they actually lit the fireworks. It's the same as a speeder. I mean, they're not gonna light it off when you're standing there as an officer.
Right, yeah, I realize they're not,
Yeah.
4,000 police in Norway to cover them.
So those are some of the issues we have. Now, you can sign a complaint. We can deal with it based on someone else's complaint. And there's some other things that I think that from a policy standpoint, from a council policy, community policy, that we could, deal with, such as, it says very clearly you cannot light off your fireworks on public property. But we know of areas that's just ignored.
Well, I know
So-
a lot of them are going off on alleys and streets.
Yeah, and it's hard on the street because you go down and the people aren't on the street, and they might have debris, but they're not gonna come out and collect their debris when police are sitting there. Strawberry Lake Road is a problem, and the police, I talked to them today, we really need to give them directive. If they want us, I mean, they could post down there, and, that's just like a war zone, and their issue is, if you want us to go down and ticket and really, enforce it, they will do it. It's just, we have to tell them that's what we want, because, they're afraid that because it's a holiday, complaints will come in that we're being too restrictive, and so they just asked. They would like to, they just want to make sure that they're not going to get penalized for doing their job. Kind of like the Baltimore theory, I mean, you see what happens.
If the state overrides any local locality.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, is the state does override our, we can have ordinances that are less restrictive than the state, but we can't have them more restrictive. That would be a fair statement, Grant?
Yeah, in this fireworks statute specifically, as Jeremy and Ray have both mentioned, specifically indicates that local governments cannot preempt the state rules. So they've specifically written it into this legislation that you can't make it more restrictive than that 1 AM to 8 AM. So they've kind of tied our hands a bit. Now, as Ray's indicated as well, there's limitations, and it's against the law to have, set off fireworks while intoxicated, to do it on public property. You know, arguably, there's situations in which individuals may be disturbing the peace, which is, again, though, as city prosecutor, it's difficult to prove in a lot of those circumstances, right?
It'd be difficult to file a complaint when it's happening anyway.
The two things I would comment to you, Mr. Rake, is number one, because this is a legislative thing, I think the community and you yourself, I think sometimes legislators do listen, and maybe write a letter to your congressman, to your senator. Yes, sir. The other thing I would hope that the community as a whole would be respectful of others and animals and young children, and be careful and hope that, you know, we would look at the things as a whole as a community and try to respect other people's rights as well.
That's one of the reasons I didn't go outside food because I didn't know what they do. But,
That's difficult.
yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Can of worms to say we should secede, but.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Matt Barnes at 5624 West Keweenaw Street. The other day I came and addressed an issue up on Keweenaw Street about the washout on the road and all the potholes, and they came up and fixed some of the potholes and stuff, which was great. It's fantastic. I thank you guys for that and everything. Then, the day after, maybe a couple days after that, I was walking out the alley with the dog, and almost broke my ankle up at the top corner of it where it's washed out a good foot, drop off, I'd say. That hasn't been filled in for 2 years as far as I'm aware of. And so that's a serious issue there, because people are always, we got kids riding bikes in there, you know, somebody crashes, that's a big, big accident. So then, a couple days after that, I had a few city guys show up at my house, you know, picking stuff apart. And do you need a permit to have a porta potty if you rent a porta potty for an event?
That I don't know.
I think you have to have, if you're using public property, you have to have a permit for the special event. I think you can get a porta potty on your property, you know, for a period of time.
Okay.
You know, it's mainly a health code issue.
Right.
Yeah.
It's on my own property though, and I was told I need a permit by, I don't know who it was.
No, you need a permit for your camper that you're living out of.
Right, but somebody.
You need a permit for your camper that you're living out of. That was the direction that was given to you to come in and get a permit. The zoning code allows for a 90-day permit while you're doing work on your house.
Right.
And that's what we instructed you to come in and get that permit. It wasn't specifically for the porta john. It was for your camper. Well, they had a question. They came to me and asked me the same question. Can you do that? And I said, sure, you can do that. But it's a health code question, and it's all wrapped up in you're living in your camper, you know, while you're fixing your house. And so what we want to do is make sure, because we're running a generator, which we've gotten complaints on. You have no water. So health code does mandate that there's some potable water. We have to make sure that you have potable water. Plus you have, you know, issues with sanitation out of your garage. So we came up and we wanted to get you straight to get that permit.
Sanitation out of the
Your garbage in your garage.
That's just like construction debris, it's not household garbage or nothing like that. So, and actually.
But that's why we asked you to get the permit, because that's what that permit is for, we don't want you to be living in the camper, we want you to be living in the house.
Right, well, that's just, you know, a month or so camping thing.
I understand, but the law says that you need to get that permit and you have 90 days.
Okay, so how do I apply for that permit?
You need to come to the city hall and you need to get the permit application. So
They'll-
what we
they'll-
explained when we were out there.
They'll have it at the window.
Yeah, you come out and you have it at the window.
I'm gonna take it up.
Yep.
Come into the, yeah.
And it's like an approval thing, or do you just fill it out and get?
You fill it out and you give the information of what you have there, yes, and then I will sign it off and say it's good to go.
Okay.
It's basically, you know, what it really comes down to is communicating, because we had no idea what was going on. You know, we got complaints on the generator, we know the camper was there. You know, we don't have you on the utility billing, you know, so what we want to make sure you do is communicate to us, to know, so when someone else complains, we know what you're doing, so we can help you.
Last year, we did the same thing, camped up there for a month or two while we did some work, and nobody complained at all last year, but for some reason this year they are.
Well, maybe we didn't receive a complaint, so we didn't know you were doing it. So you doing it last year doesn't make it right compared to this year.
Well, no, I'm just saying,
No.
there's all the same neighbors, and I talked to all my neighbors, nobody ever says a word about it, so. And we
Okay,
only-
I'm just going off of what my office staff has said.
Right, well, I'm just saying, we only turn on 2-3 times a week, we have other power that we use. So and it's during the day, not at night, definitely, so I just don't get why people would complain instead of just saying something to me, hey, will you shut that off, you know, but anyway,
Yeah.
on another note, and something was said about my grass being cut, when I just cut it the day before you guys came up there.
I don't know what that individual conversation was. I wasn't involved in
I
it.
don't know, but my neighbor's grass is this tall, and I was getting yelled at because mine's not cut when I just cut it. So I don't know what that was all about, but if you know something about the property that I don't know, it'd be nice to know, so I can cut it. Because I like a nice yard, and if that's an issue, let me know.
Okay.
So,
Well, like I said, with the permit, just come into City Hall and you can get it from here and fill it out tomorrow, or whenever you want to come in.
was there anything else that I need to take care of there?
I wasn't even aware of the conversation on the grass. No, if you come in and you get that permit dealing with the camper and give us, you know, timeline of what you're doing to get in the house, then we're good, you know, to do that.
All right, good deal.
I just wanted to let you know though, and I hope this, because I don't believe you were there when we came up and looked at the road. Joe and I walked all the way up to where you were referring to, up on top of the hill. I mean, there's a washout issue, we realize that, and there's the culverts that, there's a drainage ditch that is overgrown, and we talked about remedy. So, I mean, we're gonna go up, but we have to get the water off the road and through that drainage area, which was original design, so we're working on that.
Okay, can we at least get some gravel up in that hole for temporary fix?
Yeah.
That'd be,
Yeah, we didn't go up there today because it was raining,
right, that's.
but we were just up there on Friday looking at the washout, so I'll have it addressed.
Alright.
Hopefully
Yeah.
by the end of this week, we'll have something.
Yeah, because we walked it all the way up the hill, because it's not just where you're at, it's, you
Right.
gotta really catch it all the way up to the top
Right,
and chase it all the way down, so.
alright.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? Lee?
I'm going to go back to the liability of not letting our grass cutters on private property, yet there's no liability when we go and do work on private property other than our grass cutters. I don't understand how one can be a liability issue and not the other. And while we're on that, the compost pile, I see we're still running behind schedule on that. If we don't have much work for our electrical crew to do, or they can go off and do this private work, why can't they help out putting the fencing up over there or something?
The electrical crew was pulled off of doing their normal WPA rebuild to start putting up the netting at the ball field. And during the period of the week and a half it took us to put the netting up at the ball fields, 3 other jobs came in, 2 for new homes and 1 for a home or a garage improvement for a new service. And we had some time during that period to go up there and do that job, and it was 4 hours.
And could you not have gone and helped on the compost site?
No, we couldn't have,
Can I ask why?
because there was nobody working on the compost site at that time.
Well, that's an answer, but it's not acceptable to me.
With the grass cutting too, Lee, when we had made the decision, it wasn't just the liability. When we were looking at it was the time having our summer help not tied up doing that. It was just more efficient. We could use our summer help more. There was a lot of reasons when the council decided to go just with the contracted grass cutting. Plus, it would get done more quickly because they could get at it before our summer help could, when we had other things going on.
I know this much, and the comment has been made, which I disagree with this comment, due to the political nature of the council possibly changing. If something like this had happened and that person was not involved in it, the shit would have hit the fan. And we all know what I'm talking about.
That is an incorrect statement. We have done many jobs in the 13 years that I have been here. For instance, we went up on a ski hill, repaired that road up there, and charged them for it. That's fine, but then I need a directive of the whole council to tell us that we do not do jobs like that, and we only help out other public entities. Because since I've been here, and before I was here, it was the policy to do those types of things.
We do a lot of work with the bucket truck, because we have a bucket truck. We replace private security lights and.
Well, I don't think it's right, and you're not going to change my mind on it.
Lee, I just
How does
wanna-
the rest of the council feel about it? Do I stand alone?
I guess we'll have to look at each thing individually.
One of the
I'd like to see it as
differences.
Part of the community.
One of the differences in the conflict you have in a term of liability is that in one case, you're entering private property as a guest. You are asked to come onto private property. In the other, you are not asked and not wanted. And in the case of not asked and not wanted, it's no different than our code enforcement. We do all of our work from the right of way, because you are not asked and not wanted. And so that is a liability that's different than when you're asked and wanted to come on and do the job. Now, again, as Joe mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, we have done that work for many, 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 many years. And up until, we came here, we did it for nothing. And I think that was some of the negativity, backlash that we got, is when we said, hey, we have to get paid for this. Why should the rest of the people pay for your private work? If the council thinks that we should not do private work, we're fine. We have plenty to do.
Well, I
We
might have
just need
missed the
that
boat
direction.
on some of this, but I never realized we were doing this. I didn't realize that was policy, if it is a policy.
Well, we were doing it well before the time we were here, and so that was obviously policy. And so for us to change that would have been on ourselves to change that way we were doing things. And so we don't have a problem with it. We just need you guys to.
I know
let
at
us
one
know.
time you could not do it. So somewhere along the line, it got changed.
What were you saying, Dr. Hayes?
Well, I think the city is part of the community. We'd like to see people help out. I don't think we ought to be doing it for nothing. Like, for instance, people having water services installed for nothing, pumping out of the lake, when someone else tried to do it with a permit. So I think I'd like to see the city crew help out others if we can, but as long as we get reimbursed for it.
I agree with you on there. I think they gotta look at each case. Don't just take everyone, but I think
And then we're in competition with private business.
that's fine. I'm fine with that.
I have some concerns about going case by case. If we turn somebody down, could be legitimate reasons that we decide we don't have the time or whatever. I know politically, typically what happens is one of you guys will get a call that we're picking on them, that we don't like them, that, that we're being, it really needs to be, we do it or we don't do it, because it's open for interpretation on favoritism, and I'll tell you what, Lee, I know that you say we didn't do it at one time, but we have gone to private security poles that are every bit of 40 years old that we put up, and the owners tell us we put them up. So I think it has gone on back and forth. I think there's been a lot of politics involved in this issue, and quite frankly, I think we would prefer to have a very strong directive. We're either not going to do it or we're going to do it.
I would actually prefer, as running the utilities, to have a directive to only do it for other public entities, like
Right.
the county or the churches, things like that, to help out. I'd be fine if you said, don't do it anymore for private.
Am I allowed to say something?
Please come to the podium.
Lauren Usher, 208 Diamond Street. I understand what you're saying, Lee, but as looking at our community, we ask all community members when there's a function going on to participate to help. And it's kind of like, if we're gonna ask for help from all of those people, I think the city has some responsibility, or should be able to give back to the people that they ask for, out cleaning up parks. It's a give. At least they're paying for it, the volunteers are volunteering.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if I can put my 2 cents in, just for discussion's sake, not to pick sides, because I think certainly there's a very valid argument, as you can see from both sides. One of the things, if the council were to continue to make this decision to help out private individuals on occasion, you might want to develop a waiver, somebody to sign a waiver, a hold harmless clause that individuals, if they are private property owners, sign to hold us harmless and to waive any liability that may occur as a result of us helping them. That may be something to discuss and have that as part of the policy as well if we are going to engage in that. The other thing to think about though is if we are engaging in work that is not for a public purpose, there is situations in which perhaps our governmental immunity can be compromised, or we can open ourselves up to liability as well, which perhaps that clause would assist with. But it would be certainly cleaner if the city just chose not to do so. But at the same time, recognizing council or citizen concerns, we try to work together as a community, and being an integral part of that community sometimes means giving a helping hand here and there too. So it's a fine line to walk.
There's been times that I've been asked to go look at trees, a tree that's in between two pieces of property. It favors one person's property more than the other, but the tree is absolutely huge and goes over both pieces of property. And I have denied to go in there and take that tree down just because, first of all, we're not professional tree trimmers. And if a branch were to get away from us and go through the neighbor's roof or break a window, we have all kinds of issues there. But the jobs that are more in line with what we do on a daily basis, stick a pole in the ground or change a light bulb in a security light, I can do those things. So I have to be able to be given the ability to pick and choose what is in our line of work and what is not, to make it function properly.
Well, and that might be, you know, if we continue to go down the road of offering these services, maybe we need to come up with a list of these are the things we're gonna do. Like, I know we've done the security lights, we've done the pole
Yeah,
setting.
well, I came out for your company
Yeah.
and set a pole in Niagara.
Yeah, but I didn't know we were also fixing roads for people.
Yeah.
That was a new one. So I think we need to, if we're gonna continue down this path, we need to come up with a list of services. These are what we can do for the community, and there probably should be rates attached to it. So that we're not saying, well, we did it for $60 for this guy and $40 for this guy. I guess it should be publicized. This is the services we're gonna offer, and this is the rates they're gonna be offered at.
Yeah,
with,
we run the same rate for everybody. It's the time and material, our time, our, you know, it's the same. If you would've had something or someone else had something, and if that person has a rate attached to them, it's that person's rate. So it's the same rate. It's just not, we're not hard dollaring it. We're not saying, okay, for a road, we'll do this, and for a pole, we'll do this. We're giving them a time and material estimate, and then whatever the cost is. One idea, just to throw it out there, is the differentiate between forest private and public, and the other is between commercial and residential. You know, it's much more difficult, I think, for sometimes for our residential customers, you know, to know where to go. And, you know, if you're a business, you're a business, it's a cost of doing business. So maybe that's one way to differentiate. I mean, if you would prefer, we could come back at some point here in the near future and have an actual policy written defining it. I mean, the easy thing to do is say no, and then that's the policy. It doesn't need a lot of paperwork. But if you want us to put something together, we can do that. We can come up with,
Speaking of policies, it was over a year ago that 2 council members volunteered to be on the policy-making issue of running water lines under roads, and nothing's happened on that yet.
well, I will contact my engineer again and try and get some of the information. So, but let's stick to how would you want us to handle this other work?
I think we first need to decide if we're gonna allow it or disallow it. And if we're gonna allow it, then we can come up with a policy.
Well, you know where I stand on it.
Well, I'm for allowing it.
I'm for allowing it, but I think we need to focus more and not just say, oh, we do everything. We fix roads, we cut trees, we do all this other stuff that, there's plenty of other people that can do that.
May I speak?
Yes, please come up.
Joe Wright again, 718 Brown Street. One of the reasons I like Norway, and as this fellow was saying, it is a sense of community. And it seems to me when you have equipment that is probably quite expensive, an expertise that is probably quite specific. Because as this gentleman was saying, there are jobs that you don't want to be doing. You're not a tree trimmer. You have a lot of liability there. But if the city of Norway states that subject to equipment availability, expertise availability, and whatever other parameters you want that would avoid discrimination and be actually fairly straightforward to have a flat set rate, and you folks will be the ones that approve the job based on equipment availability and manpower too, if you don't have it. Or if you don't feel you have the expertise, then it's just foolish to proceed, and the people that do the jobs are the ones that know that. But the sense of community and the sense of being able to kill more than one bird with one stone, it's, yes, of course you need to be able to do the public things, you need to be able to do the Norway things. But there are both residential and commercial issues that could be greatly enhanced by the availability of some of this equipment to put up a pole or change a light bulb or whatever the case may be. To kill that is to just go the safe route and say, well, let's not take any chances with the our liability costs. And it just, as far as I'm concerned, that's part of taking it apart the community instead of what you're here for. It seems to me it's to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on this?
I agree, we should come up with a policy if we're gonna create
Okay.
controversy.
Well, it sounds like that's the direction. Let's come up with some kind of a policy. Anything else, Lee? Dr. Hayes?
Well, I guess I don't have any burning thoughts right now.
Chris?
Nothing tonight.
I've got nothing tonight either. Joe?
No, I have nothing further.
No.
Grant?
No, thank you.
Ray?
Just one thing, I handed out a letter from our Questqui Centennial Committee, Norway 125. We have our 125th anniversary coming up next year. Their committee has been working for the past month and a half, putting together a program. Gave you an initial budget that somebody was working on, that the committee is working on, and we've been meeting with Niagara. They just had their centennial, and trying to get some ideas or some what tos, what not tos. One of the things we talked about early on was that the group would form its own 501c3 and separate itself from the city. That was a preferred method with talking with our auditor. it would be much easier from a financial audit standpoint to be separated. However, in talking with Niagara, the timing of the 501c3 and realistically getting this done and pulled off, even if we had 2 years, is impractical. So I think when we ran the Centennial, I was not here, so I don't know the details. But when we ran the Centennial, I believe it was part of the city. There was a committee, and that the city put in seed money, which was then paid back. And I think they ran a summer celebration for a number of years after that, kind of following the Centennial model. But within the next weeks or so, the committee is going to come and present and probably ask for some assistance to get started. Not asking for the donation, they're basically asking for probably some seed money so that we can get started in bookings, because you have to have these acts, events booked a year ahead of time. You can see in the letter that the date has been selected, June 30th through July 3rd. That 4th of July falls on a Monday next year, so this is going to be Thursday through Sunday. Should be a week-long events, and maybe the fireworks will not be so rigorous on Monday because everybody will be tired, I hope. But anyway, I think it's going to be a fun event for the community. We're looking for anybody willing to help. We always have areas that need for help. So I guess that's something I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of.
Okay.
I did have 2 comments, I guess. One is on using Strawberry Lake area for fireworks. I live there, but I guess I'd rather see people setting off fireworks in an uninhabited area than in their neighborhoods. And so I guess I don't have any objection to that, even though I live there and almost lost my house last year because of it. But
Just from what I understand, talking with the police and people on the ground, that most of the people over at Strawberry Lake are from outside the community. Most of the people in the community are at their friends or at their home. So that's mostly people coming in. And if you see the lights leaving town after the fireworks, our regular fireworks are done, you can see why. I mean, it's just, we get lots of people. Our fireworks have a very good reputation, quality, and we get a lot of people from outside the community that come to our fireworks. So I think, I haven't done a survey, you know, but I think there's a lot of people from outside the community. And maybe we have a reputation that, you know, they can come here and light them up. I don't know. But I don't think so. I think other communities are struggling with the same issue. So.
And then the other comment would be, I don't know what this council can do as far as enforcing the speed law, but I would assume that we've got radar, so that could be enforced better. Because we've heard the same complaints, and there used to be a big sign down there.
Yeah.
That somebody put up. And
Yeah, I don't live off of USA. I mean, we talked. I mean, I know that, you know, I live off the US too, so I know what the sound is like, and you know, the watching the trucks go by. But I did, after we talked, the officers were down there, and you're right. I mean, they sat there for hours, and you know, they can't give a ticket for 5 over, you know, and even up to 10 over is they can give the ticket, but you know, there's some issues at the magistrate. But they would give those tickets. I think that, like you said, the problem is that we have a reputation that when the officers are out there that we're going to give tickets. US too, you see the same thing when the officer's out there. It's a hard place to sit without being seen. But they didn't. They sat there and they had the log, and they didn't have anybody at 55. And then they talked to the state police. We have a trooper in town that regularly sits out by the fairgrounds. And he said the same thing. He would love to pull the trucks over just to get in the trucks because he's a motor carrier. But he said he's not seeing them at that speed. You know, so, huh?
Because they see him.
Well, maybe. And we have that everywhere. I mean, you know, one of our best spots is up by, up off of US too, because it's a little bit, well, better hidden. So, I mean, if we can come up with some better spots, that might be a good route. The other thing is that the county had one of those trailers, but the batteries are dead, and it'll cost thousands of dollars to get batteries fixed. The county's not gonna put them in. We talked about putting up one of the machines. That might be a place to have one, but, you know, those are thousands of dollars. So, again, that comes down to council. You know, is that something that we should purchase or not purchase, or, it would definitely help every time you see those machines. You know, you see your speed, you know, and you can even put the cameras in them and some other things, you know, if that's a trouble area, so.
Well, I think on 8 there, because I live right there, and I do see, I don't see it as fast as 55, but I see people speeding.
Yeah.
And those flashing signs, when they're permanently mounted, make a difference.
They make a difference.
And I think that's something that we should look at. So if we can get some pricing from Chief State.
We have them, we had.
I think we had it a couple years ago.
Yeah, and we can freshen those up, but, you know, the department would love to have those, because, you know, if we're sitting over there, we only have 1 or 2 cars to go out. So if we're sitting there, then somebody else is saying that they're speeding over here. You know, we're trying to set our resources based on that.
I think it's worth looking at it a little more seriously, you know, and considering putting that up yet this year.
And I ad nauseam, talking to the state about lowering the speed limits, because I don't know how many traffic studies I've asked, both on US 2 and US 8. And they actually asked us to raise the speed limit, not lower theirs, so.
Marcia Goldslot, 209 Brown Street, concerning this problem, which we all know my dad was the guy who put out the signs and everything, and we've gone through this for numerous years. There is a sign that says school that does not flash. The state said they can't put one up. Yet I noticed in Quinnipiac, they have a flashing light by their park to say that, slow down, it's a park area. So I'm wondering if they can do that, why we couldn't get that flashing light?
But that's not on the highway, is it?
No, it's in town.
Right, it's so, there's a big difference between the state mandated or governed versus locally governed, whether it be county or local. Because I have the same problem with the speed limit. We have the same problem with some of the fixing of the catch basins. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, we have to, it's an ordeal.
You know how you have these traffic lights that when you run a red light, they send you a ticket? You know, I mean, I'm sure it's costly, but I know the problem there. And for as many people as you would send a ticket to, you could probably pay for that equipment in no time.
This is, Grant, I'm gonna throw this one over to you, but I'll start by, this is what I understand about the camera system. Because Michigan doesn't have a front plate, you can't definitively tell who's driving the car. And if you can't get a picture with the person's face,
So you couldn't get the license plate from the back.
they can't give a ticket off just the license
You
plate.
can't see the driver.
You have
because
to have the driver.
You're giving the driver the ticket, not the vehicle. So you have to.
So you can't give the owner, I guess.
No, you can't give the
If it was
owner
mine,
a
you can't give the owner of the car a ticket.
Right.
To say, hey, you know, you were speeding.
That's my understanding. Is that true?
That's correct. I mean, you have to be able to establish the identity of the person.
But I can't tell you, if Michigan ever gets the front plates, the cameras are very good, because I had one in South Africa, and it was beautiful picture.
You need to
So,
get the state.
Plus, if there is a ticket issued, the city doesn't get the money anyway, the state gets the money.
The speeding tickets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get about $3.
about $3.
We get about $3 off a speeding ticket.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's some
on-
policy we could change.
Yeah, on US 2 and US 8. Local roads, we get the whole ticket, but on the highways, we only get $3.
I don't know what you guys are gonna do, but you all stuff about every entrance coming into town. Because I
Yeah.
do notice that as you get right before John's, where he wants to vacate that alley, that used to be 30 miles an hour. State has now increased it to 40. So by the time they're coming down that hill, they're doing 40.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So, I mean, the state, their comment that says, well, people are used to going 55. So if I'm in at 35 and I'm going 55, do I get the right not to get the ticket?
Yeah, they use an 85th percentile, so if 85% of the people are comfortable doing a certain speed, then that's the speed it should be.
So if we Never mind.
Yeah, I know. I've been there. I've been there. I've been five, this
What we
issue.
have to do is if they do a speed study out on 8, have
Get everybody
everybody in
slow down.
town drive through going like 20 miles an hour, so that it'll skew the numbers. Just get people to drive circles, just drive a big circle.
circles.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
we
know, when I was
digress.
growing up, there were no roads coming off US two, you know, I mean, you had Belgium Town, you had the Conservation Department, you had by the Thirsty Whale, and then you didn't have another entrance until you did Stevenson. So 55 was no problem, same thing at the other end, but now that our city has grown and it's grown out, the state isn't keeping up.
Well, theoretically, that would, now, I'm just, what I get back from the state. If the city's growing out, that would mean drivers would feel less comfortable going fast, they're gonna go slower, which means their 85 percentile will go down, which means the speed limits go down.
If it were done
That's-
road diet.
that's our
that'd
theory.
solve all the problems.
Stop.
That would have solved the problem.
Not in the USA.
Well, how about some good news? Joel, how are we doing down to hydro?
Well, we had 2 units running this morning, and now there's 3 units running. So the extra water, we did finish the month of June quite strong. We had another good month with the rains that we had, and looking forward to a very, very, very low power bill for the month of June, if we even get one. Might be a credit.
That's what we like to hear.
Yep. I mean, we have a lot of projects going on down there. They're all kind of in limbo right at the moment. But we're working on the Tanner Gate seal that was scheduled to start in August. There's some engineering that we're working on to accomplish that. FERC decided to hit me up about some stressed support members on the 24-foot gate that apparently were looked at back in the 1999-98 timeframe. And so they said, well, as long as you're going to dewater the gate, I want you to take a look at this stuff. So that's in the works to get the engineering completed on that. So if they do have to be beefed up, we can do it when the gate's dewatered. And they said that they want me to take a look at a couple more homes that were built downstream of the hydro and have the elevation first floors surveyed if the dam were to breach, that we don't flood the home out. So that's one of the new undertakings that I just got last week.
And how do we fix that?
Well, you really don't fix it, but you put in your emergency action plan that if there's an imminent dam breach, say We Energies calls me and said they broke a dam up above, there's all this water coming, we know we can't handle it, we're going to open the floodgates, or it's going to topple right over the top of us, we can notify those people to evacuate. And that's really what they're looking for. So there was, FERC claims there's 5 extra structures. I'm not aware of 5, but I'm going to find out. And then we'll have to get Coleman down there and do a survey on the first floor elevation to find
Can't
out
we
what.
just say, we'll call these people? Who cares what their
No.
elevation is? Why do we have to pay money to say whether we're gonna call them or not?
They want to know. They want to know. I get your point, but they want to know the elevation. And it's our responsibility to give it to them because we operate the dam.
Not the homeowner who built the house.
They're
on
within the,
river
they're,
bond
with-
dam.
yeah, they're within the boundaries of what's called the flood zone. If there was a dam breach, there's a calculation out there that we're holding so many acre feet of water back, and if the dam were to breach, this would go downstream and it would flood up to 6 feet deep, so many feet from the shorelines, through the hole, up to 10 miles downstream.
Yeah, they have a.
Those are the properties that we have to look at. So,
And we're not convinced that the 5 are actually there. We just have to go verify whether they're there.
yeah. And if they are there,
Looking at it, we're like,
they don't have to get them surveyed.
no, I don't know where they're getting this.
But that's a pretty irrelevant survey. It's not like you're surveying a piece of property. You just go down there with the survey tool and they take a reading on the elevation, so,
They looked at an aerial and basically sent us a
yeah,
letter.
so.
We have to respond to it though.
That's the world of the hydro for the moment.
Okay, for a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.